Hey, what is going on, Twintendo Nation? Hope you're having an awesome day. Now today's Pokémon Sun and Moon video, I'm going to be talking about 10 facts you need to know about Pokémon Sun and Pokémon Moon. Now do remember, this video is spoiler free, you won't get spoiled if you don't know anything about the data mine. This video contains a lot of facts that have only been released recently, including one today of making this video, which is the 23rd of October. Now before we start today's video, question of the day to you guys: what are you looking forward to the most in Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon? Is it a certain Pokemon? Is it a certain mechanic such as Poké Ride? Let me know in the comments. Also, I'm giving away a copy of Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. I'll talk about that at the end of the video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to slap a like on it, and if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with everything Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. Anyway guys, let's start off this video with the first thing you need to know. So first up, potentially there is no stereoscopic 3D in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now if you don't know what the stereoscopic 3D is, it's basically the 3D slider on your 3DS which creates the 3D effect for the 3DS. So Junichi Masuda says, it's a cool feature of the 3DS, we think, but at the same time we really want to kind of focus on making these really rich graphics and visual expressions, and sometimes you have to make certain sacrifices to achieve that. At the same time, being an RPG they're going to play for probably dozens of hours. We always thought that with Pokemon, that it's important for the player to see that 3D effect in really effective locations, as we see it instead of keeping it on the entire time. Now this quote kind of makes it sound like there is going to be a few areas in the game where you can turn on 3D. However, certain news outlets who have played the game already said there is no 3D. Now that could be just because they've not reached these certain areas where you can turn on 3D, and they did also just play on a test build, not the actual full game, which might explain the lack of 3D. However, there is a bit of conflicting reports at the moment, so it's unsure whether Pokemon Sun and Moon will have the stereoscopic 3D or not. Let me know in the comments, do you actually use the 3D on the 3DS? Because I find myself not using it, so it wouldn't be a big miss for me if they didn't include it. One of the greatest improvements in Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon is that there's no more HMs. Instead you have Poké Ride. Poké Ride replaces HMs entirely. Instead of using certain moves outside a battle to get past obstacles such as Rock Smash breaking rocks, you now have Pokemon that do that for you. So for example, you have Tauros which can break rocks like Rock Smash, you have Sharpedo which does the same but on water, you have Lapras for surf, and Charizard to fly. Not only does Poké Ride replace HMs, but it also replaces the bike, as Tauros will now be your main way of travelling around the region. The removal of HMs is a really good step forward, as now we don't have any more HM slaves filling up your party like Bidoof. However, as you guys know, some of the HMs are actually really good in battle, such as Surf and Fly. But don't worry, they will be in the game as they've been confirmed to be TMs in Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. So Surf and Fly are still in the game, they do make a return. However, the only difference is that you don't have to have them on a Pokemon to get around the region, which is absolutely fantastic. So a few days ago, an interview embargo on Pokemon Sun and Moon was lifted, and we got some insane new details. Now this one is my personal favourite. So Game Informer were given the chance to interview Junichi Masuda, who has had a big part in every single main series Pokemon game, and Shigeru Omori, who is the current director for Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. Now the first question they asked was, is Yungoos and Gumshoos designed around Donald Trump? Which is absolutely hilarious. I mean, I'm sure most of you guys have seen the similarities between Donald Trump and Gumshoos and Yungoos. Now unfortunately, they confirmed that Yungoos and Gumshoos were not designed around Donald Trump. This is what Junichi Masuda had to say. It's a very American-centric question, I think, and actually a lot of people sent me comparison photos on Twitter pointing out the resemblance. But we had started the design of this Pokemon a long time back, and we didn't have any intention to make it look like Donald Trump. Now when Masuda was asked could he see the similarities between the two, he replied, yeah, we were really surprised when I saw those photos. I can see why people would think it would look similar, especially the hairstyle. Now of course you'd never admit that Pokemon is based off a real life person, but come on, really? Are you really trying to tell me that these two Pokemon were not inspired by Donald Trump?
Bullshit.
One of the biggest shake-ups in Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon is that there are no more gyms. This is an unprecedented change for the Pokemon series. However, interestingly, there are only 7 trials. This was confirmed today on a live stream. And this is interesting because if you guys know there are 8 gyms, and if trials are replacing gyms, why there are only 7, definitely something to keep in mind. Now when you beat Ilmia's trial, which is the first trial, you receive a Z crystal, so you might get a Z crystal instead of a TM after beating trial captains. That hasn't been confirmed yet, but that seems to be the case. That was also revealed on a live stream today. Let me know in the comments guys, what do you think of the new trials? I definitely think it's a shake-up that Pokemon needed, however I still do love gym battles, so let me know in the comments below. Now one of the things most fans are really excited for in Pokemon Sun and Moon are the new Alolan forms, which are a new take on old Pokemon. However, it has been confirmed that only Kanto Pokemon will get Alolan forms, and here's why. So Shigeru Omori says, Alolan forms will only be going to Kanto Pokemon because it's to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Pokemon, and so it's going to be a surprise for older fans who haven't played the games in a while. The new designs also mean they look like new Pokemon for those just getting into the series. So this does make sense why it's only going to be Kanto Pokemon getting these Alolan forms. However, it is slightly disappointing that certain generations will be missing out yet again, such as Generation 2, which didn't even get any Mega Evolutions for their starter Pokemon. Now they're missing out on Alolan forms as well. So like I said previously, I can understand why it's only Kanto Pokemon, but I'd still like to see other generations get these kind of form changes in the future Pokemon installments. So according to Pocket Gamer, Pokemon Sun and Moon will have a bigger emphasis on its story with anime style cutscenes. So a quote from their website says, Sun and Moon's story is similar to past Pokemon games, but told with much more urgency and gravitas, which means seriousness. They go on to say there's an opening cutscene, there are anime style events, and the camera angles are crazy. Now what they mean by this, in previous Pokemon games when they do cutscenes at the start of the game, the camera angles are pretty much the same as how you would normally play, so your mum or someone would pop out, have an exclamation mark above their head and possibly say something. However, in Pokemon Sun and Moon, these cutscenes are fully 3D rendered and completely different to what we're used to, which we saw in the Pokemon Sun and Moon demo with the totem Pokemon Hakamoa when it comes and approaches you. That is completely different, that type of cutscene, to what we're normally used to. And it sounds like Pokemon Sun and Moon is going to take full advantage of the improved graphics and the improved engine. So I can't wait to see what other cutscenes are going to be in the game. Now one of the key new features introduced in Pokemon Sun and Moon are Z moves. Now we don't know too much information about them at the moment, but there is an interesting factor that you definitely need to consider when using them. So the same Z move can vary in power depending on how it's used. So if you didn't know, Z moves attach themselves to other moves. So for example, if you use Gigavolt Havoc, which is the Z move Pikachu can use in the demo, you might see that its damage can vary quite a bit. So if you attach Gigavolt Havoc to the move Nuzzle, which only does 20 attack, Gigavolt Havoc will then have a base power of 100. If you attach Gigavolt Havoc to Electro Ball, the move will then do 160 damage, and if you attach Gigavolt Havoc to Thunderbolt, it will do 175 damage, which is a massive difference from the move Nuzzle. So depending on the movesets you have on your Pokemon, the Z move's power will be completely different depending on what move it is attached to. Now there are still questions to be asked, such as what is the base power when you use it on a move such as Protect, or status effect moves such as Toxic. We really don't know at this stage, but I will let you guys know when the full game comes out how Z moves work entirely. Now continuing on the topic of Z moves, they were introduced so that every Pokemon can have a special power up, unlike Mega Evolutions, which was specifically chosen for certain Pokemon. And that was one of the frustrating aspects about Mega Evolutions in the previous installments of the Pokemon series, that certain Pokemon received these boosts, whereas Pokemon that also needed them did not receive them. That's why the great thing about Z moves, that any Pokemon can get powered up, even Eevee, which has its own exclusive Z move. The best part is you can use any Pokemon with a Z move and it doesn't have to be fully evolved, unlike Mega Evolution. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how the competitive side of Pokemon changes with the introduction of Z moves. Now speaking of Mega Evolutions, they are in the game but only become available in the post story. So Shigeru Omori says, so over the course of the main scenario of the main game, Mega Evolutions don't appear. But once you finish the story, you unlock the access to Mega Evolved Pokemon. You run through the main game learning about these new Z moves, and after the game you unlock more strategic depth by combining Z move with Mega Evolved Pokemon. Now I'm pretty sure this is a mistranslation, because surely a Pokemon that's holding a Mega Evolution Stone cannot use a Z move, because then it would have to be holding a Z Crystal instead. So I'm pretty sure that is a mistranslation, but what isn't a mistranslation is that Mega Evolution is back in the game, which is great to see. Now moving on to our final fact, this is something that's going to disappoint a few of you guys watching this video. So Soaring, which is flying on Latios and Latias, will not be in the game. So Shigeru Omori says, with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it being kind of a remake of a game from over a decade ago, we really wanted to show it from a different perspective, which is why we did the Soar feature, which allows you to fly the skies. But with Sun and Moon, we really put the focus more on doing this rite of passage to travel across the different islands. We really put the focus more on walking the islands with your own 2 feet. For me personally, this is really disappointing. When I saw Charizard was able to fly you around the region, I was assuming you could fly around the region like Mega Latios and Mega Latias. So it is slightly disappointing, however, I still expect Pokémon Sun and Moon to be one of the best games in the franchise. So guys, let me know in the comments below what you're looking forward to the most for Pokémon Sun and Pokémon Moon. And if you did enjoy this video, definitely hit the like button guys, always appreciated. And if you're new around here and you want to stay up to date with everything Pokémon Sun and Moon and Pokémon Go, then hit the subscribe button down below. Now quickly moving on to my giveaway, the links will be in the description. All you have to do to enter to win a copy of Pokémon Sun or Pokémon Moon is retweet the tweet in the description and then follow me on Twitter, and that is it, you've got a chance of winning the game. I will be doing more giveaways in the future, especially one at 100k, which we are quite close to, so your support will help us get closer to that target. But anyway guys, thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you on the next one. Peace!